Good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Scully and Matt Winslow coming to you from Drive. And today we have special guest Shawn Goldthwaite from Bunting's Auto Body. Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you, Chris.
So tell us a little bit about your shop and where you're located, kind of your history. Let's start there, right from the beginning.
Okay. We're in a really small, pretty small town in New Hampshire, but we're about a mile from the Mass border. So we're only about 30 miles from Boston, about 20 minutes from the ocean, a couple hours from the mountains. So we're in a really good spot. But our town is probably about, I think there's 6,000 people in our town. And it's mostly rural. We're one of the only businesses in the town.
Wow.
We were grandfathered in. The business was started in 1965 by someone named Arthur Bunting, and my dad bought it in 79 and he kept the name. So I started when I was 13 working for him, and I tried to get out. I went to college and got a degree and came back during a recession, and then decided that I needed to make money. So I went back into doing auto body, and I did move to Arizona for about 6.5 years, and I worked for a few collision shops out there and in a restoration shop as well. And then my dad decided when he turned 50 that he wanted to retire, and so he wanted me to come back and take over the business, and which I did. He retired for about, I think it was like 2 weeks. And I got a phone call from my mom saying, you have to find something for him to do, get him at this house.
Oh, that's funny.
At the shop, and we've been working together ever since. He's 74 now, and he has no plans on giving it up as far as I know. He just he needs something to do every day. I'd like to retire, but that's a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah. Well, but that's amazing. He's there, he's still happy doing what he's doing, and you guys are able to work together. That's incredible. I my hat's off to you on that. That's really great. Now,
Well, I've won a lot. That's the secret to our success.
All right. Now, how long was it after you took over running the shop before you actually started working with Drive?
That was 10 years.
Uh-huh.
We had a lot of long-standing customers that kept the business going. I didn't really have to advertise. Things were moving right along, but slowly things just started to go downhill, and I didn't really notice it at first until it started to get really bad. And you just start losing some customers and whatever. I just wasn't used to advertising, doing anything to promote the business. It was just the customers always came because we've always been there. And but you lose people, they move away, they die. I mean, the business has been there for so long. And in 2012 we had our worst year that we had ever have, and I ended up taking a loan from my dad to keep going. And it was like $50,000. And
Wow.
then, yeah, we just couldn't pay the bills. And I was going to turn it around. 2013, we had even a worse year, and I was running the business on my credit card. And you can only go so long there. Coincidentally, my dad had got a call from Drive in 2012, and he mentioned it to me. I was on vacation, and he had mentioned it to me when I came back, and he thought it was something we should do. And I took it as like a personal insult. Do you think I can't run the business? Kind of a thing. And so no, actually that was 2013, yeah. And so the next year I got the call, and the great salesman on the line kind of sold me on coming to the at that time they were doing the I forget what they call them.
Seminar.
Seminar, yeah. And Jim um, was the speaker at the
Jim,
seminar.
Jim Saley.
Daily, yeah.
Yeah.
David Celine was there, Robbie Krushenko, I think his name is, and there was a whole cast of characters there. And I remember talking them down on the price of it. I thought the $350 or whatever the seminar price was too much, and I wanted to whittle them down a little bit, and they ended up giving me, I think, a meal voucher or something that sealed the deal.
Gotcha. And what was it that made you decide that our program was right for you at that point?
I figured I didn't have anything to lose. I mean, when Jim ended the seminar, they put the number on the screen, what it would be for 6 months of joining, having a consultant and stuff. And I actually laughed out loud. Like I thought that was crazy, ridiculous. I couldn't even believe that they were putting that kind of a number up, what it cost. And
yeah, it was pretty low, wasn't it?
yeah. I thought, I can't even afford to keep the doors open, and they want me to pay how much? And but then I went to I heard the pitch. I think it was probably from Robbie or something, and I thought, you know what? I'm probably not going to be in business another year, so they're saying they can help me turn this around. What do I have to lose? I put it on credit card. I'm living on credit card anyway, and so that's what I did.
All right. So that was the state of your business when you started. How are things now?
Completely different. Back then, I was the mechanic. I was the front desk. I was, answering all the phones. Boy, it was not a good scene. I didn't think I could afford to hire anyone. I couldn't even pay myself. How could I, hire someone else? And I think in 2013 we did 290,000, and this past year we just almost hit $1 million at 980. That was
Nice.
so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 6-7 years. Yeah.
That's great. And then I saw that, well, you'd mentioned that you're looking to retire at some point soon, but I also know that you kind of like being in the shop at this point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is, it's a part of me. I've been, doing that since I was 13.
Right.
But I still feel like there's more to do. I'm not ready to just be out of there completely. I still have a lot of training to do. Right now with employee issues, I have a good group of employees, but I recently lost my front desk person, so I'm in the process of hiring for that. So there's always stuff to manage and get better at. And
Yeah, but one of the things that I want to ask you about, because it comes up with a lot of shop owners, when you started out, you were basically doing everything,
right.
and you felt you had to, right? Now you're in a position where you've got a good group of employees and you don't have to. And talk about the difference just in terms of what that mindset is, where you can be in the shop or not be in the shop at your choice versus having to work long hours and still not be able to make ends meet.
Yeah, that is it's a world of difference. Like you said, it is my choice, even though I don't feel like, I still feel like there's more to do before I can just walk out. I mean, I'm always thinking about the shop, even when I'm, on vacation or at home or something. I have been setting things up so I can work remotely if I want, more than I can have control over things from the house instead of having to be in the shop physically. But yeah, that's I used to answer the phone really angrily, because I was working. I had grease all over my hands, and I would answer, hello, like, what do you want? Why are you bothering trying to get my job done? And so now it's definitely more enjoyable to, it's your choice if you're there, and you want to make things better, and you can oversee the business, not being in it and the day-to-day stuff that's just killing you. It's you're looking over the whole thing and you're getting a different perspective on it, and you can make decisions easier that way. When you're in it, you can't make decisions on the business. You can't put policies in place. You're just struggling to survive. um I don't know if I answered your question exactly, but that's
No, you,
that's what-
yeah, definitely did. That's awesome.
So what are some of your greatest challenges you're focusing on right now in the business? I know you said you got to replace your front desk and
yeah, that's a big one. And just employees in general, in this time, um making sure they're compensated enough, because things have definitely moved in their favor. You can't. I did hire someone at the front desk a couple months ago that didn't work out, and I paid them way more than I ever thought I would for someone without experience. So there's a shift going on, and you have to make sure everybody's being compensated correctly, or they may leave. They may. I mean, people are trying to get employees any way they can. So that definitely, that is a challenge. My I think my challenge too with, like, I have a lot, actually older employees, about half my crew, and I'm just getting everybody on board with new policies, and um, you know computers and reading sheets, and what how we used to do it is just tell everybody what we wanted them to do and expect them to do it. Now there's a lot. It's more complicated. They have to be able to read a sheet and know what they have to do from there, and you can't be working side by side with them. You have other things to do, and so I'd say my biggest challenges are with me, and how I manage, and getting better at that. But definitely there are employee challenges today.
yeah, the whole world's certainly facing that. It's sometimes I wonder where all these people went and how they're living. As the government, I think, stopped giving out free money, but boy, it seems like they're still out there somewhere. I don't know if they moved in with mom and dad or what.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
it's very challenging out there. It's you could more call it like a buyer's market than anything, because the power has shifted. There are more jobs out there than there are people to apply for them, and that makes it more challenging to not just find good people, but to hang on to them.
Are you doing any insurance work in your body shop?
Well, yeah, we do insurance work. We're more of an independent body shop, so
Mhm.
I like to say we work with the insurance companies, not for them.
Right. Well, I know a lot of people had a pain increase recently, and do you have any tips for our audience on how to pass those costs on to insurance? They love to do that hourly rate, which I think is from the 1970s, and your costs are from 2022. So, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah, we try to we always write higher than they are willing. We have to negotiate.
Mhm.
Another thing with the paint materials is we have a system where we can invoice, and as long as you give the insurance company something to pay off, they have to justify their job to their people, and so if you can give them an invoice, you're going to probably get paid better than just saying, yeah, I want $40 for a rate instead of the 32 you're offering me.
Absolutely.
So we try to invoice. It helps. If you can give them a piece of paper that says this is what your costs are, it helps them justify things on their end better.
What kind of paint are you primarily spraying? What's your primary line?
We use RM Diamond.
Okay.
We've been using it for probably 25 years actually.
How about your estimating system?
Estimating system, we're with CCC1 right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a great system.
With them since 2015. It's expensive.
Yes, yes, it is.
Like everything's going up right now. My electric bill just doubled because rates
ouch.
sky high for delivery, and so there's just everybody is going up, so shops have to look, because we do mechanical as well, and so I had to look at it something as simple as an oil change, where we had been at the same rate forever, for 10 years we've been charging the same for an oil change. And I looked at the cost of the stuff, and I'm just like, I know this is a loss leader, but man, I don't want to lose that.
Yeah, right.
Well, if your price 10 years ago was $500, you might be okay, but I'm guessing it probably was slightly lower.
Right. So yeah, everything. I mean, we've had to adjust our prices to try to keep up with the inflation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's now, Shawn, I wanted to ask you a little bit about this last couple of years, because we've all been through, this pandemic, and it's affected different shops in different ways. And we talked already about, some of the differences between the problems you had when you started with Drive and the problems you have now from a management perspective. But you also said that when you started, you were living off of credit cards, you're running the shop off your credit cards. How did you navigate the pandemic from a financial point of view? What's, obviously I don't need all the numbers, but, talk about a little bit about that, reserves, things like that. How did you navigate the pandemic?
Well, that was tough, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, because I lost most of my crew. Decided that it wasn't safe to be at work, and then I was in a situation where some of the employees were making more on unemployment than they were working to begin with, and so trying to get those guys back. But at the same time, I lost, I think, about 35% of business, especially that first year, 2020. Just people weren't driving, people weren't coming in. I ended up, me and my service manager and my mechanic, even, we would be driving cars to people's houses, and we'd be picking them up, and and luckily we had set up a credit card text to pay system, not even knowing that the pandemic was going to happen, but that helped, where people could just pay from their house, have their car picked up and delivered. So I started doing things like that. Also, the PPP loan that the government offered gave me ability to pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
So that can't be understated. But yeah, I mean, at the end of 2020, things started moving again, and last year we had our best year ever.
Wow.
So
cool.
That's awesome. And then as far as so that was on the customer service side, are there any of those actions that you just mentioned, things like the pickup and delivery or whatever, that you're looking at that were particularly successful that you might want to keep in place, or anything like that?
A big thing that we put in place was social media, especially Facebook. We have a person doing social media, and just getting our name in the community, because a lot of people were on Facebook or on social media more because they were home, and they I mean, I think like our local Atkinson Facebook group, community group grew. Like, I mean, there's people engaged in that all hours of the day. It wasn't like that before the pandemic. So that we got a lot of help through that, where people in the community would suggest us and talk about how great we were because we were picking their car up and delivering their car and going the extra mile. We're not having to do that much. People are willing to drive their car and stuff. So that wasn't an action that stayed.
Okay.
But it definitely helped during that time.
And are you doing any kind of digital advertising on Google or Facebook at all?
Yeah, we do Google ads, and we track that and we do that with Drive. So once a month I get the report and I look it over and see how that's going.
Great. All right.
Got a quick question for you. So do you have any tips for other folks in the auto repair, auto body business on handling parts? You know, and auto body used to be, we'd flip the money in about 25 days, but you know, sometimes parts are hard to get. Any tips on managing cash flow when sometimes cars are sitting on your lot longer than you want?
Yeah, we have cars that we put back together and gave them back to the customer, and we got paid on those cars minus the parts that we didn't receive.
Oh, cool.
And they're coming back, and we're going to be doing those because it is getting ridiculous. I mean, you know, a door panel on a Honda Pilot, I think it's been 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Something like that you can put together. It still doesn't compromise the safety of the car. It's just a cosmetic thing, but we do anything we can to get that car back on the road if it's safe, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's a great idea.
Excellent.
Good for the customer, good for you too. It's amazing how even in this pandemic, insurance, the rental car after 30 days are like, figure it out.
What are we supposed to do? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so
Right,
I congratulate you on your courage and so forth. I think you've just done an amazing job. And thank you so much for joining us today. You want to tell the audience just a little bit about that amazing 12-string behind you? I see a 12-string. I see a 6-string. Quite the guitar aficionado over there.
Yeah, this is my main guitar. It's a year 2000 Martin HD.
You obviously are making money now. If you bought a Martin, that's a serious. You can buy a paint booth for that guitar, for goodness sakes.
Well, for a while, this Guild. This is a 1958 Guild.
Ooh, beautiful!
Wow, that's beautiful.
And a customer brought this in because his brother had passed away and it was his brother's guitar. Actually, he wanted to sell me a different guitar, which I ended up buying. And this was a piece of junk, he said. And I looked at that and I was like, well, how much do you want for that? You know? And he goes, oh, you're interested in that one? Big Gill. I have this 12-string. I only play once in a while. I have Les Paul.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Got to have the 12-string if you're going to play, you know, Hotel California. It's just kind of the rules.
Yeah. Yep. Stratocaster.
Nice.
You know, I have a few guitars. Telecaster that I bought brand new in 1990.
Wow.
It's nice to hear you have interest outside just being at the shop, you know, something that keeps you passionate.
That I could retire and not have a worry about having stuff to do. I have many unfinished projects, hobbies. So.
That's great. All right, we are getting close to our time. Shawn, thank you for joining us today and telling us about your shop and your success. It's, you know, it's amazing turnaround of your business from where you started to where you are now. Congratulations on your best year ever, and looking forward to hearing more from you soon. And for everybody watching, next week we have a special show. We're going to talk about how to increase your profits, and we'll have Cassie on, who's going to be delivering that particular workshop, and we'll talk about KPIs and how to use them to make your shop more profitable. So that's our show next week. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks again, Shawn. Good to see you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Shawn.
Thanks, Chris.